Good morning, YouTubers. T-Square with T-Square Talk. Hope everybody's having a great day. Got a great video planned out for you guys today. Today, I'm not going to be talking about gold and silver. I'm not going to be talking about crypto. I'm going to talk a little bit about preparing, because some of the stuff going on right now, I think, could have a devastating effect on a lot of people. And we talk about gold and silver all the time. And so I kind of want to talk today about preparing. A lot of people take it for granted. A lot of people think maybe they're prepared until something happens. I'll be honest, I lived through the 1998 ice storm up in New England, even though I was living in Maine. It is up there in New England, and it was kind of devastating. And we had lost power for like 3 weeks. I also went through Hurricane Harvey. I actually stayed at my house at ground zero for Hurricane Harvey, and I'll be honest, that night I was a little scared. And to my surprise, the next day I wasn't quite as prepared as I thought I was. I mean, I thought I was pretty well prepped and prepared, but I could have done a few more things to prepare a little bit more. And so I think people need to take a little bit of time right now and kind of prepare for what is happening that you may or may not even know. A lot of people have been following what's going on in the Middle East, and tensions have been escalating, and a lot of people think that is going to skyrocket the price of gold and silver. And like I've said in the past, there's a good chance that's going to happen. It's going to skyrocket oil prices, and oil prices will skyrocket pretty much everything if you're even able to get oil and gas. So I think it's important that people think about this. Now, I don't want this to be misconstrued in a way of me saying that the dip ain't happening, because I'm still betting that we will see a dip by the end of the month. And if we do, hey, I'm right. If we don't, hey, I called it wrong. I know I'm against the bulk of YouTube right now, thinking we're going to see some sort of a pullback between now and the 4th of July weekend. We'll see how it plays out. But today we're going to talk about prepping and preparing for what's going on. We're going to talk a little bit about what is going on over there and how it is escalating. We're going to talk about briefly a story that just came up, that something that was brought in from China, and it was caught, but I'm not convinced that that was the only one. Who knows? We'll see how this plays out. We're going to talk a little bit about that. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that thumbs up button for me. Leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on any of the subjects that we cover tonight. So right off the bat, taking a quick look at the silver price. We got silver price down to $36.40, about 80 cents off of the high of $37.20. We're seeing it kind of coming down in nice sharp spurts. A lot of you know I am pro that we're going to see a dip, and so I think we're already starting to see the results of the no Fed cut. They decided not to cut rates yesterday, and like I said, if they don't cut rates, then essentially that is better for the dollar and worse for gold and silver, and we're seeing it already start to dip. Now, it's still early. We still got, 2 weeks before I expect that we're going to see that $33 silver. Now, I know right now it looks pretty far away, but I still think we're going to see it. Taking a quick look at the gold price, $3,353. Again, we're seeing pull downs in that. We still have a 90-to-1 gold-silver ratio right now, roughly 91-to-1. I expect that will go right back up pretty soon. Taking a quick look at the Bitcoin price, we got Bitcoin trading at just a hair under $105,000, holding its own right now still. I actually talked to that one friend that I have that said he was going to sell when it goes back over 100. He ain't selling. He said, I'm holding. He goes, I don't want it to skyrocket up. I'm disappointed. I'm mad at it. And I said, what are you mad at it for? It's at 105,000. That's pretty good. I would be happy with that if I had that. And he goes, it was up to 112 last week. And I said, okay, well, I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't knock 105. Taking a quick look at the DXY, like I said, we would start inching back up to, I thought we'd hit 100 during the Fed meeting. We didn't hit the 100. We actually are up to 99.11. We actually got up there earlier in the day, and then it started coming down, and then it started popping back up again. Like I said, I don't know how we're going to see the pullback, but I think we're going to see the pullback in precious metals, and it could be due to a strengthening of the dollar. Make people think that the dollar is a safe asset. A lot of us know better because we're following the U.S. debt clock that is about ready to hit $37 trillion, as we're at 36 trillion. 996 billion. And look at this climb. At the rate it's climbing, by tomorrow morning when you watch this video, if you go and you check out US debt clock, you will see 37 trillion. Now, I wanted to be up for it, but I mean, it's almost 1:30 now. I'm probably not going to, because I have a ton of stuff going on this week and next week, so I probably won't be up when it does hit. So moving in to what I wanted to talk about today, the first thing I've got to do is lay the groundwork of what's going on in the Middle East. I think everybody is pretty well aware, so I don't have to beat it up too much and talk about it a ton. However, some of y'all have heard that Donald Trump wants a complete surrender of Iran, and Iran has came out and they reject it. They're not going to surrender. And to the point where Iranian missiles actually have just hit an Israel as nuclear reactor, which, we'll see how this plays out. This is interesting, I guess you can say, with the amount of missiles that are being sent back and forth. I don't want to say, I don't know what the proper word is, but with the amount of volleying of missiles, this is going to get ugly. And the U.S. is sending over 2 carrier groups right now, strike groups. This is basically a floating armada. I'm not even saying the word right, but I apologize. Armada. Needless to say, I think things could escalate. But where it's going to escalate the most, I think, is with the oil prices. We've been down this road before. We've seen what happens when war really ramps up in the Middle East. And right now, oil trading at $73.70 a barrel. And I know maybe wherever you're at, you haven't seen gas prices jump. I know I just gassed up the other day, I filled up everything that I could fill up at $2.39. And then ironically, I ended up going by a Walmart and they had it down, the gas all the way down to $2.19, which was pretty interesting that it was that cheap. I couldn't believe that. They had the truck there filling up right then and there. So either they hadn't gone up yet, but most places are already jumping up to $2.99. Some of you, you can put in the comments how much the gas is where you're at. I love to hear, just say I'm in California. If you want to say the city, Los Angeles, California, gas is whatever it is, I don't know, Augusta, Maine, Springfield, Massachusetts, whatever, wherever you're at, go ahead and put it in the comments and say what the gas is there right now. I love to hear it. I've already talked briefly on the Fed. The Fed not willing to cut interest rates. They think that inflation is going to continue to escalate, as I would too with the increase in the oil prices. That cost will get filtered on to just about everything, and the growth will slow. Well, yeah, as stuff gets more expensive, people will start getting scared. As jobs slow down, as they start laying off people, we're going to see how things could escalate quicker. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. We talked a lot the other day. Let's see here. As you can see, I'm going to come back to the items real quick because we talked briefly on that the other day. I want to talk just briefly, like I said, if oil goes up, gas goes up. It may not even be a matter of the price of the gas. It may be a matter of you just not being able to get gas. And if that happens, things could get a little hot and heavy. California gas prices may soar over $8 per gallon. I'm curious to hear. Now, I'm not going to live in fear on this just yet because, like I said, there's a lot of manipulation in the market. And just because oil and gas should be going up, the big question is, can they short the heck out of it and kind of manipulate it down in the short couple weeks? Now, it's not sustainable. That kind of strategy is something they can use in the short run, but it's not going to be sustainable. And before I get over to the food items, I want to talk a little bit about this. This was a story that recently has been coming out. I guess I'm gonna sum up the whole story. A student that was going to University of Michigan, basically studying different biology and stuff. And I guess it would, the way the story is, let's see if I can pull it up here a little better. Basically, they were accused of smuggling in a fungus that basically will destroy crops, food crops. Now, I think that's interesting. I really wonder if this is a propaganda story or if this is going to come out legit. Because, like I said, some people are saying, and it's all over the internet, you can't miss this story right now. Some people are saying, that it's not as serious as what they're calling. However, we're hearing the story change from the individuals. I guess the girl started out saying she didn't know it was there. Then she shifted her story. Once people start shifting their story, I always say if you get caught in a lie, then I'm not going to really trust anything you're saying, and I'm going to probably assume the worst. And I think there is something to worry about here. With everything going on in the world, I think people should take a little time and be prepared. I used to do a lot of videos about prepping on the channel. Now, here's the thing. We briefly talked about prepping yesterday. I think people need to understand from a different point of view that having some extra stuff on hand. Now, before I start telling you some of the extra stuff to have on hand, I got to tell you what not to do. Do not go out to Sam's Club, buy yourself 2 or 3 50-pound bags of rice and just throw it in the closet. Prepping, it takes time. Food preservation, the things that really damage food is light. So if you got it sitting in sunlight, it will get destroyed over time. Water, if it gets wet, it will ruin it. And air. So if it's exposed to air, eventually the air will have an effect on it. Now, once you find a way to cut out those three, I've actually used Mylar bags. I've used 5-gallon food-grade buckets that you can get from your local McDonald's, Burger King, Whataburger. Usually pickles come in them. They might sell them to you for $1. They might just give them to you if you're pretty cool. Subway used to get tons of them when I worked at a Subway. I didn't collect them back then. However, now I think food-grade bucket with a food seal have a lot of good uses to have on hand. And if you buy some of these Mylar bags, and I will put a link, if I remember, I hate to say that, below that you can use that link and get $5 off. Now, I'm going to be honest, that is a link that a company sent me with a referral. So I do get something if y'all buy something from them. I don't care if you buy something or not. I don't even know if the referral code still works because it was from like years and years ago when I was mostly doing prepping videos. But I think it's important because it's super easy to get some 5-gallon buckets from a local restaurant for pickles, clean them out really good, get some Mylar bags, and if you don't buy them from there, look around on eBay. Just look for some good quality ones and put some rice in them, seal them, throw a couple oxygen absorbers in there, and essentially you're good to go. A 50-pound bag of rice is super cheap. It blows my mind how people are so ill prepared if something was to happen. If you could not go to the grocery store for the next week, would you be able to sustain yourself and your family? Do you have enough food in your house for even a week, 2 weeks, a month? I've always said I don't want people going out and just like having no idea about prepping and just all of a sudden start buying tons of stuff. I'll be honest, there was a time that I had done that. I wanted to have a good prep, and I went out and I said, you know what, I got a little extra money. I'm just going to spend like $500 and just buy a ton of stuff. And it caused problems. I actually talked to a person at Walmart one day. It was a husband and wife, and they were looking at canning jars. And she said she was frustrated. And then she didn't really want to talk about it. I talked to the husband for a little bit, and the husband said she went out, bought tons of food, just filled up the pantry with like 100 boxes of macaroni and cheese, 100 bags of rice, beans, canned goods, all this stuff. And then they got weebles, they got roaches, they got all kinds of stuff. And it was a headache. And I said, it takes time to really learn what's going on, to get a good rotation system in place. But once you get it, you're usually good to go. And I think it's important that people take a little time and maybe look over what you have in your pantry. If you've got food in your pantry, be prepared. Water too. Have some sort of water purification tablets, maybe filters, or know how to basically prepare water from rainwater, from streams, brooks, whatever. It doesn't really take much to set up a filtration system if you understand and you have a certain amount of resources already. You start separating it out. When you think about how filtration works, usually it goes through gravel, it goes through sand, it goes through charcoal. This is all stuff that you can either find, buy, or gather up. Now, the buckets, that's where the problem comes up. But some people, I've got some friends that are like, you know what? You've got the money. I've got the money. I'm not going to get buckets and have to do this stuff when the time comes. I'm just going to buy high-end filtration now and have what I need when the time comes. And they've got the straws now that you can just drink. Essentially, it's crazy. Drink dirty water right through the straw, and as you're sucking it through the straw, it's filtering it. Me personally, I kind of like having different ideas, knowing what's going on. But once you get past the food and water, I've always said a certain amount of security, a certain amount of pew-pews, a way to use them, a means. You never know how things could get ugly. You never know what could happen in the middle of the night. So having some sort of security measure, I think, is very important. Medical supplies. We've talked about a lot of this in a previous video. Medical supplies. That doesn't just include Band-Aids and that type of stuff. Have extra medicine. I've been meaning to do a video of different medicines that you should have on hand, only because I've been reading a lot about what's going on in Libya, what's been going on. A lot of the medical staff is leaving the country, and they're going overseas. They're going to other countries to essentially practice, because they're like, our practice is no good if people can't get the medicine they need. I tell you, okay, go get some amoxicillin and some Z-Packs, a steroid pack, and take that, and then you can't get it. You go to the drugstores, you can't get it. You go to the pharmacies, you can't get it. You go everywhere you got to go, you can't get the stuff you need. That's why I've always said you should have a little bit on hand. I've been meaning to do a video where I talk about different stuff that if you can get your hands on it, it might be worth having a little bit of extra on hand. Some people will go to Mexico and they'll buy some extra antibiotics and different stuff, whatever their medicine is. Some people have just asked their doctor, hey, my bottle, I spilt it. Can I get a new prescription? I mean, some of these medicines are dirt cheap anyway, especially if you're on a generic. And if that's the case, I've heard one guy, he said his dog chewed it up and basically it ruined the medicine, and so he wanted a new one. Now, he had to pay that money, but we're talking $30 maybe for some of this stuff. On top of that, I know a lot of people, I did a big video on this yesterday about gold and silver. I'm not going to beat gold and silver too much tonight. I think gold and silver, it's a item that everybody can use as a medium of exchange. I'll be honest. You got a fishing boat and you go out and you get a bunch of fish. If I don't like fish, but I've got a bunch of tomatoes, I'm not going to take your fish that might go bad before I can trade it off to someone if I'm not going to use it. Now, I know someone might say, does it matter? And I do like fish. I love fish. I actually got multiple friends that are fishing guides, and they're always giving me fish. In fact, I just got a 2-pound bag of redfish put in my fridge yesterday that someone had given me. It's, a medium of exchange with gold and silver. They can take that, they can put it up and have something if things get ugly. If I've got a bunch of rice, let's say, and someone asks me, hey, can I trade you this silver necklace or this gold necklace for a bunch of rice? Of course I would do that. I can only eat so much rice. Do I think something like a collapse would happen and be long term? So first of all, I'm not really expecting necessarily something long term, more than 6 months to a year. But we've experienced stuff right here in the United States during the Vietnam era where people couldn't get gas, they couldn't get certain items, and they were basically getting stamps to be able to get certain items that they wanted or needed. Stuff like sugars, butters, gas. And once you understand that stuff could happen. Now, one thing, I was in the Middle East and we were given some kind of little tickets for alcohol. We could have up to 2 bottles of alcohol every week. Me, I don't drink. Have I drinking in the past? Yes, but I wasn't a drinker enough that I would need 2 bottles or even really one a week because I'm not a drinker. That's not my thing. Needless to say, a lot of people wanted those tickets. They were willing to even work one of my shifts, one of my watches, just to get those tickets. And so understanding that gold, silver, alcohol, tobacco, you need certain items that you can trade in case something happens. Seeds for growing. Whoa, what just happened? Seeds for growing. My computer shut off for a quick second, or not shut off. It just went black on my side. Seeds for growing food. That's really important. I know you're not going to be able to get a garden going overnight, but, you got to consider, that's why I've always said I wish the president or Congress would say something about, hey, we're going to beat this inflation. We need victory gardens. Everybody needs to grow something. I actually saw one lady, she was growing a few tomato plants. Granted, once it got too hot, she kind of let them go. And I was like, oh, that's too bad, because they were really nice tomato plants. They got, 2-3 feet tall. They were producing tomatoes, and then essentially she just let them go. Basil, I know I love making, what do they call it? Now I can't remember. Pesto. Essentially using basil. So I'll grow that, and that grows super easy. But, having in mind stuff that you might need, real quick, we talked about this yesterday too, cocoa powder for treats, building materials, honey, salt. Salt's amazing for food preparation. It actually says it has medical uses. Huh, that's a new one. I've never heard of salt for medical uses. Someone will have to put in the comments what you would, but I'm going to probably look it up tonight or tomorrow morning. Sugar, canned meat, shelf-stable proteins, instant coffee. There's a lot of different things that you want to be prepared for. And don't buy stuff that you're not going to use. If you don't like an item, I'll be honest, I can't stand spam. But yet, during the whole cough, just before it happened, I went out and bought 2 cases of Spam. Why? Because I knew if things got ugly, Spam would be an important item. And even though I may not like it, you know what? I'll eat what I'm given if I ain't got no options. I've talked to some people, and they're like, Spam ain't bad if you really know how to cook it. Cut it thin, fry it up, and make sandwiches, that type of stuff. I would probably eat bologna before I ate Spam, but technically from talking to a friend of mine, because I just became heavy diabetic, I probably shouldn't be eating anything with preservatives is what I was told, I guess. I guess that means meats that are canned or whatever. I'm trying to eat more vegetables. That's why I want to get a big garden going again. I wished I had done it this year, but I didn't. I let it go because it is a lot of work. It does take time, but if you do it right, you can set it up to where you're not putting a ton of work in, where it almost takes care of itself. You just go out there and water it. I got one friend, he spends a fortune, though, on a garden. I'm not going to spend tons and tons of money where the money costs me more than just buying it at a grocery store. Although I do understand the produce that you grow at home is going to taste a lot better. It's going to be a lot fresher. It's not going to have chemicals on it, that type of stuff. But it doesn't take long to build up some sort of a bed, a growing bed, and making zucchinis or whatever it is you like. So with that being said, I'm going to wrap up here. Consider starting prepping a little bit, because if you do, it's going to be beneficial. It's going to put you in a better position if things get ugly. If you are wondering, you can check out my playlists, and this is my playlist category. Let's see here. We got Max Barbecue. We got Precious Metals. I'm looking for one that I had. I thought I had a playlist for gardening, but I don't. Oh, I'm sorry. They're set up like that. I see now. Obviously, I don't check out my own channel too much. There's a Prepping 101 playlist that you can check out. This was a coin roll hunting playlist. Pretty good. I'm going to have to see where the gardening. I don't see the gardening playlist anymore. Some of y'all that have been following the channel remember when I did the chickens, the gardening, all that stuff. So, Hurricane Harvey. Experience it. With that being said, I thank you all for watching, commenting, and I will see you guys again on T-Square Talk. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Help me out, and thank you all for watching. 26 minutes, not too bad. I try to keep it under 30. Y'all have a great day, and thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see y'all tomorrow, and we'll see what happens with the price of precious metals today. I'm pretty excited. See if it comes down a little bit more. And don't think I'm not pro gold and silver. I just, like I said, I'm looking for deals. So that way I can spend more of that money on canned goods. Take care, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.